This is a Heart and Hand production.
Hello and welcome all. My name is Steven Harrigan and I'm joined by Mr. Kevin Armstrong. Hello, Kevin.
Good afternoon.
And a very special guest indeed, a man who's captained us, amassed over 100 appearances, scored some very important goals, loved the slide challenge, and was once sent off for giving the salute to the away fans. He's very much lived the dream, and of course he is one of our own. It's a pleasure to speak to Mr. Andy Halliday. Andy, welcome to Heart and Hand. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on as well.
No worries. First of all, how's lockdown treating you? Going crazy yet?
Probably the same as everyone else. It was all right being back at home for a couple of weeks, but I think after a couple of weeks, you're getting a bit stuck in with the missus for the full time. So
there's only so many box sets and that you can watch, isn't there?
I know. Tell me about it. And I think I've just been rewatching good ones more than anything. So I'm sick of the telly. I'm just looking forward to the football to start.
Absolutely. Well, we'll start at the beginning. Now, you grew up in Copeland Road very famously and you attended Renfrew High. What were your earliest influences and memories of the game? How did you get noticed, first obviously at Ross County and then by Rangers? What kind of set you on your pathway to becoming a professional footballer?
So I started off, I played at Park Villa Boys Club, who we played at Elder Park in Govan. Had a pretty good team at the time. And one of my mum's best friends, her husband was a youth coach at Rangers, Drew Todd, and he was very keen to get me in and train for a couple of weeks with the boys and see how we got on for there. And I went in, managed to do well, and obviously at the time I was in school, being a big Rangers fan, the chance to go in and train with Rangers was obviously pretty special. And then they signed me up, so I was a member of Rangers Pro Youth for I think it was 3 to 4 years. Worked under some good people. I'd Bobby Russell was my first manager. Then it moved on to Sandy Clark. Then obviously I got the chance to work with Drew as well, who at the time was working with the under 15s. At the time I was only 13. So I think the 3 people that moved up the age group at the time was me, John Fleck, and Danny Wilson. So it was 3 players that managed to play for the first team in the future.
Very good company.
It was a decent group of players, that. But you were released. How do you think, was that handled well, and do you think that was the best thing for your career at that point in time?
Well, I had, I don't think it's really well known, I had Osgood Slatters when I was young, which is, I don't know if anybody knows or the listener knows, it's growing pains in the knees. So I missed a year of football at that point, and like I said, I get called up to the older age group. It was obviously with Drew at the time, and we went to Holland. And at that point, my Rangers youth career, especially, was sort of flying. I was doing really well, playing the year above, playing a lot of football, playing well. And then Osgood Slatters came into play, and I managed to miss just over a year of football. So at that point, it's very difficult as a young player. Obviously, I need to get a key time in your development to be playing football and to be learning, and to miss such a extended period of time was obviously extremely disappointing. At that time, I obviously moved back to my own age group. At the time, Stevie Wright was the manager. And once I sort of started getting fit again, it was just injury after injury at that point. I broke my collarbone in an indoor match against Motherwell, and the famous John Gregg was actually the one that took me to the hospital. So that was probably the highlight of my youth career at that point. I missed a lot of football, had a lot of injuries. So at the time, it was something that I could see coming, because I missed, like I said, just over a year and a half of football. And but I've said it on numerous occasions. At the time, I was obviously devastated, but looking back, it was definitely the best thing for me, because I managed to go to Livingston and play professional first team football even when I was still in school. I made my debut against St Johnstone when I was still in high school. So the chance to play men's football at such an early age obviously helped me along the way.
And did you enjoy your time at Livingston? You obviously excelled there. You won the Young Player of the Year. Was that a good place for you? And did you have any other offers?
I loved it. Livingston was an academy that brought a lot of first team players through at that time. They had the likes of Graham Dorrans, who obviously played with Rangers, Robert Snodgrass, all players that came through the youth and done really well. And again, it was more, I've spoken about it before in media outlets, that I gave up football when I got released for Rangers. I stopped playing for, I think it was 3-4 months. And again, it was more a family friend that encouraged me back into it. At this time, it was one of my big brother's best friends, Steve Allison, who's still a coach now. And he's coached at Rangers Youth, so I think a lot of the listeners might know him. He was coaching at Livingston at the time, and he kept trying to sort of badger me to get back into football. But at that time, I was just enjoying playing football with my mates, just playing local and just enjoying it really. And he managed to, convince me to get back into football at Livingston. And obviously looking back, I'm very thankful that it did, because obviously it led me on the right career path. And loved my time at Livingston. There's a lot of good people. Obviously it was a relatively small club, but a real family club, and there was a lot of local boys from Glasgow who I'm still friends with now.
See that exposure, you spoke about playing first team football when you were still at school. See, having that exposure, obviously now there's a lot of talk between getting Rangers coach sides in the lower divisions. Do you come on leaps and bounds by being exposed to that type of football, and that football where you have to win week in and week out, as opposed to the more structured way that it's done at the lower ages now?
I think it's a difficult one within Rangers Academy. I think the majority of football clubs you're at, you'd be extremely encouraged to go on loan and develop in men's football and get experience early. But I think the difficult thing for our youth players is it's very difficult for a young player at Rangers to go on loan to a lower league Scottish team and get the brand of football that he's been known since he was 9-year-old at Rangers. So I think you look at players like Stephen Kelly, for example, who's went on loan last year and done extremely well at United. He's been looking to go on loan, I think, for maybe 2-3 years to sort of boost his development, but it was about finding that right project for him, because, like I said, if he's going to a club where it's going to be more direct Route 1 football, you're not going to get the best out of Stevie. Stevie's not going to develop the way he can. So I think that Rangers were really patient within him to find the right loan move for him, and he's went on last year and obviously done extremely well. So I think it is difficult for our younger players. They've been brought up through the ages playing a certain style, and it's a style that it's not really seen a lot in lower leagues. So I think out with Rangers, I would certainly encourage many players to go out as early as possible and get that experience, because it's only going to stand you in good stead moving forward.
Do you think that's perhaps why we struggle sometimes to have that pathway into the first team? Because on the continent, they have that continued, they have that cohesion that exists because they can play in the B teams, they can have their structure, they can cultivate their own culture, the way they want to play. So it's really kind of like, I don't want to say plug in and play, but in many cases, you know what your responsibilities are when you move up, the age groups. Whereas here, we don't have a lot of players at the younger age that get that exposure that you need to get that 50 games. You're going to make mistakes and you're going to find out a couple of things and then come back and be a better player, aren't you?
Yeah, and the thing, down in England, there's 92 football clubs. There's 92 professional football clubs with the same facilities as the majority of the teams outside the Premier League. So they're getting training facilities and their food and appropriate coaching like they would get at their parent club. Whereas up here, we've only got a handful of professional clubs out with the Premier League. So it is difficult, but like I said, I'm certainly a big advocate of the Rangers B and the Rangers Colts making it into the Football League. I think it's only good for the Scottish game as well, developing our younger players. And it's been something that even, back to my early days at Rangers with Mark Warburton, he was trying to push for. So I think the club's been trying to push for this since I've been here. And I don't think there's any better time than now, especially when they're starting to talk about potential league reconstruction. So I think it would be great news for our youth club if that's what we manage to do and get them in the Football League.
Yeah, before you moved to Middlesbrough, you had a trial at Parma, kind of 3-day period. Parma were in Serie B at the time. What did you take away from that experience, and how did you find the transition to Middlesbrough? Because obviously there was quite a lot of Scottish influence. There was players like Chris Boyd and Kevin Thompson down there. Did they take you under their wing and lead you astray or lead you into good habits?
Yeah, well, the Parma one was obviously a strange one. I made my debut for Livingston, as I said, as a schoolboy, but then it was the Italian owners took over, and they got in a manager called Roberto Landi who signed something crazy like 15 Italian players or something like that. So at that point, I was just basically back with the youth team again and doing well in the youth setup. But the Italian owners wanted me to go to Parma because he also had shares in Parma. So at the time, it was me. I don't know if we can talk about him on this channel, but Lee Griffiths and Joe McKee. It was the three of us, all from Livingston at the time, all went on trial to Parma. And I remember all three of us doing really well. I'm not 100% sure if they offered Joe a contract, but I know they definitely offered me and Lee Griffiths one. But at that time, to be honest, the money wasn't what I expected it was going to be. And I was on 65 quid a week at a time. So I certainly wasn't looking for big bucks at that point. And it felt a lot for me to move abroad, away from my family, at 16-year-old, without any real benefit at the time. So managed to took the decision to stay. Managed to score quite a lot of goals at the lower leagues with Livingston, and at that point there was quite a number of clubs that were interested in me. But I think the real pull that Middlesbrough had was, at that time I was really young, so it was important that it was close to home. And like you said, they did have that big Scottish contingent at the time where they had Kevin Thompson, Chris Boyd, a lot of former Celtic players, and Gordon Strachan obviously being Scottish as the manager as well. So took the decision to go there and loved my 5 years there as well.
How big a transition is it going to England? Because everybody talks about the physical aspects of the game, but would it be something you would always recommend to younger players as well? You played your games at All League in Scotland, you've established yourself. Is going to England the next step for many before maybe perhaps coming back to the likes of Rangers to make it?
I think they're all very personal scenarios to certain players. At that point, we had just been promoted for League 2 in Scotland, going into League 1, so it was a no-brainer to jump from League 1 to Scotland to the English Championship. Although I was playing a lot of football at such a young age, I felt as if my development would be a lot quicker going to the English Championship. And at that point, I was more than happy to just go and play for the reserves, play for the academy and try and work my way through. But I remember my first pre-season at Middlesbrough was absolutely flying. I'd played in every game. I think I'd scored something like 4 or 5 goals. And I was unfortunate that I got a grade 2 tear in my groin before the first game of the season. I think I was out for 4 to 5 weeks. And I returned to the training on the Thursday before we played Sheffield United at home. And I got a call into the office with Gordon Strachan. Keep in mind, obviously, I'm only 18 years old, just came from League 1 in Scotland. And he told me I was starting on the Saturday. So the fact that I was out for 5 weeks at such a young age, came back to train on the Thursday and got told I was playing on the Saturday against Sheffield United on Sky. It was a huge sign of faith for the manager. We managed to win that game 1-0, and it was Chris Boyd that scored it. So
yeah, it says loans before you actually initially went to Bradford. The highlight of your time at Bradford was obviously your goal at Stamford Bridge in the FA Cup. That was quite a star-studded Jose Mourinho team. But see, when that game kicked off, did you have an inkling? Did the team have an inkling that perhaps Chelsea were there for the taking? And what was the kind of mentality of your side going into that match?
We'd been on such a good cup run that year before. We played Millwall, who were in the English Championship. So obviously they were favourites to go through that round, and we battered them 4-0. The round before, I think they'd beat one of the lower leagues teams. So going into the game, it was just a case of when we played Millwall, we already knew the winner of that game was playing Chelsea. So it was the opportunity to play at obviously a big stadium against it. They were probably one of the best teams in Europe at that point. I think under Mourinho, they hadn't lost a home game for something like 2 or 3 years. So it was always going to be a big task. But what I will say is under my time at Bradford at that point, we were on a 14-game unbeaten stretch. So we were in a good frame of mind. But we always knew it was going to be a very, very hard task. It was just a case of trying to stay in the game as long as possible and try and affect them in the offensive end towards the tail end of the game. But that certainly didn't start that way because we were 2-0 down after 20 minutes. And listen, as a player going to Chelsea, knowing how good they are, when you're 2-0 down after 20 minutes, it's a case of this could be a cricket score. John Stead managed to get a goal for us before half-time. And everyone talks about how big a cup upset it was, and of course it was, but the second half performance merited the win. I think it was probably the most surprising factor about that day is how well we actually played and how much we dominated Chelsea in the second half. And to score 4 goals and 3 in the second half, and obviously for myself to score the third one as well. And I've got family who have season tickets at Ibrox who live in London, and they never really had much opportunity to see me play at that point, so they were in the stands at the time. So it was a special day, and it was one I always look back as one of my career highlights.
Top billing match of the day as well.
I'm most surprised. It's because I scored my right foot. You don't see that.
The collector's item. So obviously after that, you would get the move that you wanted. How did you hear about Rangers' initial interest, and was it a case of I'm going, or was it a case of looking and sort of saying the club's maybe not in the best position here? Did you think about it, or was it just a case of let's go?
It's actually a story that I don't think really many people know. I got told Rangers' interest round about March time. It was early March, and at the time I was told that it was a Portuguese guy that was getting the job in the summer and that he wanted to sign me at Rangers. So for my focus was sort of that March onwards, I was just saying to my agent, listen, get it done. So I want to sign with Rangers. They're in the Championship at this point, but they're going to get promoted back to the SPL, so just get it done. I want to go there. So I remember obviously knowing that this guy was going to get a job and he wanted to sign me. When we played Motherwell, our season was finished. When we played Motherwell in the playoff, I'd already been to the Easter Road playoff. Obviously we won. And then I went to Fir Park for the second leg of the playoff, knowing that Rangers win this game, I'm signing for Rangers. So obviously, turns out they didn't win. So I was a bit more devastated than normal when Rangers lose a game, and it felt as if the chance was lost to go back, because I knew that this guy was only taking the job if they went back to the SPL. So after that, it was sort of Plan B, see what the options are going forward and where I was going to go. And my agent gave me a call a couple of weeks later and says, there's a new target for the job, Mark Warburton. I've already spoke to him, told him that you were high in the priority list to sign before he was getting the job. And Mark Warburton was pretty honest at the time and just says, listen, I've not had the chance to see Andy play much. Would he be willing to come and trial? And at this point, I think it was 3 contract offers down in England. Contract was on the table for all 3. I was very, very close at going to sign for one of them. But it's always been my dream to play for Rangers. So obviously I took that jump and took the plunge to go and trial with Mark Warburton for a couple of weeks. And to be honest, I was always confident in my ability at that point to win a deal at Rangers. And it was a 2-week trial period, but he offered me a contract after 3 days, and the rest was history.
How challenging is that for a player, especially one of your standing at the time, to go and trial and to take that kind of heart rule your head decision? Because if you went and trial and you get injured, you could have been left in limbo for a long period of time. So you took a calculated risk. It's a risk that's inevitably paid off. But at that time, was there a part of you thinking perhaps I should take the contract offers?
Nah, never really, to be honest, because it was always, like I said, it's always been my dream to play for Rangers. It was more the ego factor. I'd played something like 150 first team football games at that point. I was thinking, going on trial, like just go and Y-scout to what everybody else does and see if you want to sign me. But if it was anybody else other than Rangers, I'd have took the contract off. It was already there, obviously with the risk it comes with. But the fact it was Rangers, and like I said, I was confident in my ability to obviously win that contract, so it was a no-brainer.
What was your debut like? Because it doesn't really get much better. And when you think, well, personally, when I think back to that game at Easter Road, the result, everything that was going on that day, I think it often gets forgotten now because of the way it ended. But that was such an important day, and it really did feel as if we were entering a new dawn and everything had changed for the better. What was it like to be part of it and to finally make your debut?
It was mental, because at that point there was such a big turnover of players when Mark Warburton first signed. We signed, I think it was now on 10, 11, 12 players. And he set his stall for the day one in pre-season that he wanted to change Rangers' style of play at the time for the previous tenure. So our aims all through that pre-season was to sort of change the way we wanted to play, change our style, change the way we were perceived at the time. And we had such a young group at the time that I felt at that point it actually helped in terms of trying to change the culture so quickly. But we were lucky that we did have, we had the likes of, Lee Wallace, Kenny Miller, players that had been there for a long time, real winners, real good teammates that sort of drove that culture and that winning mentality with the younger players early. And I remember when the draw got made for Hibs, it was a Petrified Cup, none of the SPL teams were in, so basically the toughest fixture you were going to get was Hibs at the point. And being at Easter Road obviously made that extra bit tougher. But I remember everybody was delighted. Everybody wanted that challenge early, and it was a chance to lay a sort of a marker down for the start of the season. And in terms of the debut, I think it will always go down as the highlight of my career, just because it was my first game for Rangers. It's what I've always wanted to do. Knowing that I had friends and family in the stand watching the game and watching me pull on the jersey for the first time, and to top it off, you're beating Hibs 6-2 at Easter Road. There's been better Rangers teams than that one, but I can't remember many scored 6 at Easter Road.
And you got a fantastic goal into boot.
Aye, it was obviously my position changed early in Mark Warburton's tenure. Mark told me during the pre-season time that it was always the plan that I was going to be a sort of number 8 box-to-box midfielder at Rangers, but he basically told me that, listen, we're going to be signing John Eustace, but he's no fit now. He's no fit now. So, we've seen you in training. We've seen you obviously in the pre-season game so far. we know you can handle the ball in tight areas and start to play. Would you be willing to go back and play the 4 until John signs? So I was like, no problem, I can do that, no worries. So for the rest of the pre-season games, I was playing there, playing okay. Obviously, with the plan that John was going to come in, take that position, I would go further forward. Obviously, that didn't happen, so I ended up staying in that position for the foreseeable. But I enjoyed it. It was it was something a position that I tried to learn as quickly as possible to help the team. But saying that, I wasn't supposed to be as further forward as I was in that Hibs game to score that goal. So it was a good goal. It was obviously extremely special for myself as well.
Absolutely. What was Mark like to work with on a day-to-day basis?
Outstanding. I think he'll go as one of definitely either the best manager I've worked under or certainly the top 2. I think it was just the confidence he instilled in such young players at the time, the belief he gave us in a style of play that no matter who we played, we could match anyone. And everybody talks about his flaws in terms of the sort of never really had that plan B when it wasn't going well, but gave us such confidence in the plan A that it was, you were going into every single game, whether it was a high pressure game or it was anybody at home, that every single player in this football team, when you've got the ball, they're going to help you on it, and they're going to give you an option. And at that point, we weren't the best team in the world, but we played a very, very good style of football, a very attractive style of football that I'm sure the fans enjoyed. That's probably why our games managed to finish 4-3 every single game. So it was certainly entertaining for the neutral. But Mark was a manager I loved working under, and it was I followed his career since, and hoping he goes on to do good things.
Certainly a day where Planet E worked to perfection was your first Old Firm game. That, of course, was the semi-final at Hampden. That day we kind of implemented our game plan on them. We went very aggressive. Is that something you feel in that approach works best to that type of fixture, going from the experience you're now having it?
Yeah, and I think obviously reflecting on what I was saying about Mark as well, is everybody's perception at Old Firm games is high tempo, 50-50s, and try to win the battle early before the game settles. And such is the way he wanted us to play. We knew that we were wanting to go and dominate the ball early, and when you do get into your rhythm early as the type of team we were, it settles you so quickly, and you sort of get that swagger early on to go and carry for the rest of the game. And that's exactly how that game panned out. It was the fact that we got into our stride so quickly in that game, when we had probably 8, maybe 7, 8 of the starting 11 had never played an Old Firm game before. So it gave us such confidence within the game that we could match Celtic at that point, because they were the SPL champions. Rangers hadn't been in that league for X amount of years. So, but we felt as if that team at our best, we could certainly match them, and I think we got that throughout the majority of that game. I think the first half was pretty much domination. Celtic, reacted probably the way we expected them to in the start of the second half. But I think we won the game in penalties, but I think there was no doubt within the game who deserved to win it.
You're always confident going into the shootout. Could you look at the players opposite you and sense they maybe had more nerves and weren't as relaxed as yourselves?
I've spoken about it before. It was probably one of the most games I hyped up myself before it. That it's an Old Firm. It's going to be my first one. It's the games I've always wanted to play in. Like obviously all my friends and family want to talk about it, and I remember saying to them before it, listen, just don't talk about it. I'll try to focus on it when the time comes. But when the kick-off went, it's by far one of the most calm and collected I've ever felt within a game. And again, touched on it, I think it was majority of that down with the style of play we had. I knew if I was getting the ball, I knew everybody else was going to want it, make it easier for the person that was on the ball. And we took that sort of calm and collective nature throughout the game. And then when the penalty shootout came, I remember just standing up and saying, listen, I want to take the first one. I want to take the sort of brunt within myself and go and put the first one away and try and make it easier for everyone else. And, stepping up to take that penalty again, I was confident and, managed to stroke it away. And the rest of the boys managed to do their job as well, and we got the win.
You mentioned that first half there. I think at half time, I think it was Mo Johnson said, I'm not sure if I'm watching Rangers or Barcelona, so I don't know if that makes you the Scottish Iniesta or the Scottish Xavi. But after that game, after that game, you're standing on the pitch, you've won it, everybody's going mental. Is that when you feel this is the Rangers that I was brought up on, winning these big games? Because it's been a long, long time since we've done something like that.
it was funny because it was a more a welcome to Rangers because you've just beat Celtic in the Scottish Cup semi-final, but you couldn't celebrate it because we're playing Hibs in 3 days. If I was at a club down south and we'd won such a game of that magnitude, everybody would been out drinking that night, regardless of what the next game was. But it's Rangers. It's that winning culture with the fact that we beat Celtic, but we've not won anything yet. So we go again in 3 days' time to go against Hibs at Easter Road, who at that point were obviously battling for us for the league championship at that point. So it was a case of obviously overwhelming emotion that we've done it, but at that point we'd won nothing yet. So it was a case of just going to Easter Road 3 days later and try to get that points gap bigger for the league.
That Scottish Cup final that followed, there really is the one that kind of got away. You scored a fantastic goal in the second half, but see the manner in which we did lose it. Did that kind of bleed into the following season? And is it fair to say that perhaps the squad as a whole never really got over it? We never really recovered the way we should have from that defeat.
I think that like I said, when we beat Celtic, I think like I said, the leaders within the squad, like your Kenny Millers, your Lee Wallace, listen, this means nothing unless we go and win the Scottish Cup final. Which, I completely agreed with at the time. But I've said this a couple of times. I'm certainly not trying to make excuses within it, but our league finished 4 weeks before the Scottish Cup final. So we never played a competitive match for a month before going to try and win a major trophy. I don't know any country in the world where that would happen. And, the way it worked, Hibs were obviously in the playoff at the time, so they were still playing regular first-team football, competitive football, leading into the Scottish Cup final. We were trying our best to get friendlies, but everybody's season was still going. People were away on their holidays, so it was impossible to try and get any friendlies. I think we had one within the month, and it was Tottenham down there because Mark Warburton had a good relationship with someone down in Tottenham at the time. So we had one friendly in a month before we played a Scottish Cup final. So it just felt as if we weren't at a peak condition going into the game, and I think you've seen that within the game. We'd played so well that season for 90% of the games, but in that game we didn't play well. We never played the way we usually did within that season, and I think that that break, that month break before it did affect the game. And within it, I think Hibs deserved the game, deserved the win. But when you score to make it 2-1 with 10 minutes to go, you're expecting to hold on, and it was obviously a huge disappointment that we weren't managed to do so. But I think winning the Scottish Cup that year, it would have been the sort of perfect ending of that season because we'd done what we wanted to do. We won the league comfortably, albeit we should have. We won the Petrofac comfortably, albeit we should have. We beat our rivals in Celtic, and then if you go and top that off with a Scottish Cup victory, I thought it would have probably rounded off the perfect first season. But unfortunately, we weren't managed to do that.
Do you think that would have kicked us on a wee bit because the following season and the next time we met Celtic had a hugely different result? And that's despite, a lot of the players on our side, we improved, we went out and strengthened, we went and, reinforced. And so did they. They obviously changed. The biggest change for them was managerial-wise. But the result was so, in disparity with what we'd seen before. Why do you think that was the case? Again,
I do just feel as if it was that lack of football leading up to the Scottish Cup final did really hamper us. In terms of the result, I don't know for certain, but I do think it was a big factor in how Mark Warburton approached his transfer policy that summer. It was all about his sort of style of play and trying to nurture these young players into how he wanted to play. But that summer he did go and sign a lot of experienced players and a lot of good players at that. And I think that Scottish Cup final maybe did affect how he was going to operate in the market that summer. And in terms of myself, it was obviously extremely disappointing, and it's hard to go and enjoy your summer after losing a Scottish Cup final. But it certainly didn't affect my approach going into the next season. It was a chance to get Rangers back to the SPL, and we managed to do that. So I was looking forward to the season after. In terms of the full squad, I don't know how everybody mentally took that, but I seen hungry players when we came back to pre-season going into the season after.
Now, Joey Barton is saying what's happened very recently. Was his coffee machine that good it was worth fighting over?
Joey was somebody, listen, I talked about obviously when we were trying to sign experienced players, which maybe went away from the mantra that Mark was trying to do, but when you find out you're signing Joey Barton on a free transfer, it's a no-brainer. And Joey was someone that I got along with really well for the first day that he walked in the door. He was, and again, tied into what I was saying about the likes of Lee and Kenny, real winner. every single day. His commitment, his work rate was infectious. It could only rub off on all the young players that we had at the football club, and it was a fantastic signing. What obviously led to happening, I've seen it talked about so many times in papers and whatnot. But me and Joey got along brilliant. What happened on the training pitch that day was a reaction of a drubbing against Celtic. So emotions were high, tempers were high, and what happened between me and Joey that day, I've seen 1,000 times across my early career at that point. So I certainly didn't envisage me and Joey's mini bust up was going to lead to any type of suspension, but I believe that wasn't the cause of it, and whatever happened between Joey and the manager after was. But like I said, I had a great relationship with Joey. I had a great relationship with the manager, so I didn't want to see any of them leave. So to be honest, it was a bit of a low point for myself and boys in the squad, because we were losing a good player and a good teammate at the time, which we didn't want to see.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. It's almost as if there wasn't if you didn't have a reaction, it'd be even worse, because it would be players just not caring, in that instance. But see the players, did they sense, almost like the fans, we kind of knew Mark Warburton's time was coming to an end, and perhaps he wasn't as fully focused as he had been previously. Did the players get a sense of that?
To be honest with you, not at all. It was I think that within the general mantra, the squad, everybody had real respect for the manager, like real affection for the manager. He brought a lot to the football club, so that's always going to be the case. But it was someone that we loved working under. Not just him, but Davy Weir, one of the real gentlemen of the game. Somebody that I still keep in touch with now. Again, had a great relationship with him during his time at Rangers. So it was actually a real surprise to us when we seen that Mark Warburton had left, and then obviously reports started filtering out that he was talking to other clubs and stuff like that. But that's something within, with players, you're never going to know stuff like that. You don't know if it's true. You don't know if it's lies. You don't know anything. So at that point, it was a real disappointment. It was a real surprise that we seen him left. And it was a case at that point just seeing who comes in to take the club forward. But it was disappointing because I know myself and a lot of players at the club at the time really got along with the manager. You've seen the likes of Lee Wallace going to work with him in the future, and I know Kenny still speaks to the manager a lot. So it was disappointing for us at the time.
What does the group as a whole make of the appointment of Pedro Caixinha? Because it comes out of very left field. I don't think anybody would have predicted it, and it goes a wee bit away from the type of manager that we had previously. Yeah,
I mean, it was a case of probably 90% of the squad didn't know who he was, so it was all going on Google, see where he's been before and see what he was like, stuff like that. And I've always been the mantra that I don't want to disrespect anyone that's worked at Rangers or played at Rangers, but I felt from early that he wasn't the right man for the job. But it never, under any circumstance, took away any player's desire to train or desire to work for him and try and make us better and try and make us successful. I just felt from early that he wasn't the right man for the job. And obviously, me and his personal relationship went pretty sour pretty quickly, and it led to me obviously going on loan pretty early into his tenure. But even when I was away, I still wanted him to succeed, because if he succeeded, it meant the club did. So it was a catch-22 at the time, but it was obviously, it led me going elsewhere for 6 months.
We spoke to Clint Hill on the channel before, and he was telling us about the slideshow that he'd clearly shown the directors and stuff like that. Were you the same as Clint? Were you a bit like, slideshow? What's this boy about here?
Yeah, and it was a lot of the stuff came from sort of analysis. I just don't think he had a grasp on Scottish football and how different it was to be at a club like Rangers, where, if I'm giving examples, he would watch Motherwell against Kilmarnock at Fir Park, and we'd be playing Motherwell the next week, and he'd be watching Motherwell, waves the attack, how they're attacking Kilmarnock, what they're going to do to try and beat Rangers. But us as Rangers players know that's not how they're coming to Ibrox and playing against us. So we knew it was going to be a completely different scenario than what he was expecting. So I just don't feel that he had a grasp on what it was going to be like at Rangers. I think a lot of his setup was more on the defensive end. But we know that teams are coming to Ibrox with their backs against the wall. They're just wanting to hold on for as long as possible and then try and get a result. So I think that went against them. And in terms of try to be one of the leaders within the squad. I know that me and a couple of other players tried to get that across to him, but he was pretty stubborn in his ways, and he took the sort of suggestions with us as pretty personal, and relationships started to go sour.
Of course, he brought in a few of the other Mexican boys. How did they settle, or did they not settle? We know Pereira enjoyed a touring schedule of Scotland, but I think he's seen more monuments than I've seen in his time here. And with obviously Carlos Peña, who was good enough for a goal, but they never really worked out. Did you get a feeling earlier on that they weren't going to work out, or did you think these boys have got something about them?
I think when foreign managers come into any football club, there's going to be an influx of foreign players, and you're hoping that they're just going to be a benefit to the football club. And I remember, Daniel Candeias was one of his early signings, turned out to be a real servant for Rangers, in my opinion. He had, he had a Portuguese passport, but he had Scottish work ethic every single day. It was 100%. No matter who you were playing on a Saturday, he gave you your everything. You were going to get off Danny every day. And it was a lot of foreign players that came in, but we try to welcome them all and try and get them to understand what it's going to be like here, because it's different to probably the majority of clubs you've played at. Some of them were successful, some of them weren't, and I think that's the case of the majority of transfer windows you're going to get.
The phrase "get out of sight, out of mind" springs up when you think of your loan in Azerbaijan. You clearly felt you would outlast Pedro at the club. I think that's pretty clear. But why there? Was there ever a time you could, you thought that you might have to leave on a more permanent basis in order to secure the football that probably at that stage of your career you wanted to play week in, week out, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I knew pretty early going into the next season that I wasn't going to be in Pedro's plans. I think he made that pretty clear to myself as well. And he said that I know that within the football club, he made it clear that if I was leaving, he wanted my full wage covered. So I said, that's fine. If that's what's going to help the football club, that's what I'll do. And two of the offers that I had were abroad. They were the two clubs that were willing to pay my wages at the time. And one of them being Azerbaijan. And at that point, like you said, I was telling everyone, I'm going to be here longer than Pedro Caixinha is going to be. So if I need to go and loan somewhere for 6 months or a year and come back, I know I'm going to outlast him anyway. So from the outside, it looks like a very strange move, and I can understand why. But at that point, I looked at it and thought, I've got 3 years left at my contract at Rangers. I'm going to come back. There's going to be a new manager there. And this team for Azerbaijan were in the Europa League. I'd never played European football at that point. So that, although it sounded strange, it looked strange to a lot of people, it seemed easier to me because I was getting the chance to obviously play a different culture, play different football, but I was playing European football. And they'd made the Europa League group stages the year before. So for all I know, they're a very good team. So I took the chance to go to that and obviously got to experience European competition. Unfortunately, we got put out against Panathinaikos in the third round, so didn't manage to get to the group stages. But knew pretty early that I'd probably made a mistake going there. Something that if I could change, obviously I would have. But I don't regret my decision and the reasons why I done it.
You did make some good pals over there. We've seen you in the supporters club. How were the boys out there? Did they welcome you with open arms when you rocked up?
I know, they were brilliant. It was just a case of I was trying to watch as many Rangers games as I can, but I didn't have Sky or anything like that over there. And if somebody got in contact with me just saying we've got a Rangers supporters club in Baku, so I says, "Oh, brilliant! I'll see you at Saturday." So played it was the first game of the season, was Motherwell at Fir Park, and just went down to the pub early to watch the Rangers game. So it was that's all it was. It was just sort of trying to find someone that showed the games, to be honest.
Graham Burty then comes in, and that's somebody you had a very good working relationship with at that point. And see the semi-final at Hampden that you played in, that setup that day was very similar to the one that Michael Beale would set us up in against Maribor not that long afterwards. What was the difference that day? And how did you feel with being made the kind of scapegoat? Because you'd carried out your instructions the way you were given them, and you were substituted very early on, something that could have clearly waited to half time. Was that the source of your anger and frustration, and do you think that whole thing was handled as well as it could have been?
I think that in terms of the setup, in terms of the shape, it's extremely different. It's extremely similar to how we play under Michael Beale and the gaffer at Rangers. But in terms of the roles and instructions within it, I think it was different. You look at our European games. to the naked eye, it might look as if we're trying to sit back and hit teams in the counter, but once players get into a certain area, we want to lay a glove on them. And within that Celtic game, I don't think that was what we were instructed to do or what we done. It was just too easy for Celtic in that game, too early to just waltz their way into 30 yards away from our goal and play certain stuff. But like I said, I had a good relationship with Graham Murty. I thought, especially in his first caretaker role at Rangers, I thought he'd done really well, because at that point, players were low at the end of sort of the Pedro Caixinha spell, so it was a difficult job for him to pick everybody back up and will us on to the sort of remainder fixtures to try and make this club as successful as possible. But yeah, of course, I mean, I think at that point that Celtic game was my first game back starting in the team. I hadn't played for an X amount of games. I think if we could have made 10 substitutions at that point, we'd have made 10 at half time. So I think if his plan was to make any substitutions, he could have waited 4 minutes. So obviously a lot of my anger and frustration was towards that. But at that point, by no means I'm saying I was playing well, but I felt as if a lot of people weren't playing great. So I thought, again, it wasn't really handled that well. But if you were going to sub me off, you could have waited 4 minutes and done it at half time. But I had conversations with Graham Murty after that. The biggest disappointment, everybody talks about obviously getting subbed in the first half. The biggest disappointment in that game was the loss, and the fact that I lost 2 teammates who were really close to me at that point, and 2 real Rangers men, in my opinion. The fact that I lost them after the game was probably the more disheartening thing for me.
Again, is that just the backdrop of what happens when you lose games? You spoke earlier about the altercation with Joey and how that came to the end of his Rangers career. But do these things happen and transpire just because of the nature of the defeats and the way that it evolves? Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure as fans, your emotions are running high after games like that. So as players, we're no different, especially local players who grew up supporting the club and know what it's all about and know what the fixture means. And myself and the likes of Lee Wallace and Kenny Miller were just exactly that. And again, I don't think anything that was done or said in the changing room was untoward. I don't think it's anything I've not seen before. So it was, it was the way it panned out was, it was extremely disheartening for players, because these were 2 guys that you looked up to within the squad as two your experienced players and leaders. So the fact that I lost 2 good teammates within that process made it worse than anything else.
Do you think it's better after the games to air everything, air your grievances, because keeping them pent up's only going to fester, maybe in a few weeks' time, another fixture or something at the training ground, isn't it?
And it just shows you care. It's as simple as that. If I seen somebody coming in after a game like that and they were laughing and joking in the changing room, we'd be fighting. And we were the opposite of that. And that's the reason, obviously, the tempers got a bit high. But it was nothing. There was no punches thrown. There was no tussles. There was no grappling. It was just an exchange of words, because we were so angry at how we felt we performed in the day and how we felt we let everyone down and we let each other down. And it was just as simple as that.
Shortly after that, Steven Gerrard obviously arrives. When did you sort of first hear the word that there's maybe a chance of him coming in? Because I know, me personally, you sort of hear these names linked and you don't really take much notice of them. So what was your reaction when you first heard about Gerrard? And were you fearful of retaining your spot in the team, or did you think, here we go again? Or were you looking forward to the challenge?
Well, basically, when the case was, after all the sort of stuff with Pedro and then come back with Graham Murty, Mark Allen was obviously the sporting director under them at the time. Pedro, at that point, was trying to get me out the door beforehand, so it was all looking like, clubs were sort of trying to come in for me that summer. I felt as if it was obviously a potential I could be leaving. And with the new manager coming in, I never really knew what was being said about my own personal situation at the club, what Mark was saying, how it went on with the previous tenure, how I obviously didn't get along with Pedro, the words that were being said, stuff like that. So, to be honest, I thought I was out the door that summer. I thought I was going to be leaving. I thought I'd be going elsewhere. And the gaffer, who's everyone knows, you can see his interviews, what he's like. He's straight to the point. He's black or white. He's firm, but he's fair. He'll tell you exactly what's been said. He's always been truthful. And it was a case he told me at the start, listen, I've got a list of players what I've been told about them, should they stay, should they go, question marks, ticks, crosses, this is what's been said about you. And he said, but listen, I'm my own man. He says, I've seen you in training, I've seen how hard you work, how good you are with other players, younger players, how much you want to win. Why is this here? I don't see this when I read this. And I said, listen, the fact of the matter is, I didn't get along with the previous manager. But, he didn't like me, I didn't like him. But I still trained hard every day. I still worked hard every day. I still try to, do my best for the football club and try and play and try and get in the team. It was just that, on a personal level, we just didn't get along. And he said, well, listen, for what I've seen, you're going to be a part of my team. You're going to be a part of my squad. So don't worry about what's on here, but just give me what I'm seeing every single day. So he made that clear to me pretty early, and I was delighted. It felt as if it was that sort of second chance, like a sort of redemption that he was giving me to go and obviously continue my Rangers career and work for him. And like I said, I think he's very, very firm and very fair with every single player within the squad, and you know where you stand. And he told me where I standed pretty early.
One thing this coaching staff and managers renowned for is improving players. Do you think you've become a better player? Because you've always been a very versatile player, but especially in the last few years, I don't think there's a huge drop-off on your performance levels whereabouts you play in the park, and that's a huge credit to yourself, but that's a very difficult thing to do. Would you say under this coaching staff and the manager that you've improved?
Yeah, I think my best spell for Rangers was the first 6 months under Mark Warburton in the SPL. But I think the most consistent I've been was under Steven Gerrard. I think under Warburton it was because I'd be playing well, but we'd be winning games, we'd be drawing games, be losing games. And if I'm honest, if you lose a game at Rangers, you don't look as if you played well. It doesn't. You could have been unbelievable, but if you've lost or you drew, you were a 5 out of 10. And I think the first 6 months in the SPL, I felt as if I was playing really well. I got Player of the Month 1 month, and then I was in the nominations the month after, and I managed to score a few goals. I felt as if I was doing really well. But then the second 6 months, I was poor. My consistency levels were really poor. I had too many games where I underperformed, and it was just it was an inconsistent season. Whereas under Steven Gerrard, I think it's probably been I was certainly more consistent in that year. I think I talked about obviously how well I got on with Mark Warburton and how highly I think of him, but the exact same goes to what I say about Steven Gerrard and Michael Beale. Personally, is probably the best coach I've worked under. In terms of a coach, he's phenomenal. Steven Gerrard as a manager is just exactly what you sort of seen as the player. It's just like a leader, disciplinarian, someone he's got that aura about him where he demands that respect off everybody. And from my point of view, we've certainly got the right people to help me take the club forward. And I think that under them, it's probably been my most consistent period.
Yeah, one of the games, probably one of your most famous games and favourite games for yourself, would be an Old Firm match in December 2018. Now, you had a rather famous challenge in that game, but that's a game, and some of the members of that squad that would have had a lot of scar tissue going into it. How important is it to get that mentality changed and get that squad believing they can actually beat Celtic again, because it was something that we were struggling to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm one that I'm never going to shy away from wearing the jersey. If I'm playing, I'm going to try and step up and give 100% and do the best. The game where I did get subbed off against Celtic at half-time, we played Celtic the week after. I was never going to go into that game with my head down and shy away from any type of challenge or stuff like that. I'll try and step up and be counted. So obviously within that club, that team, at the time, we'd had setback after setback against Celtic and domestically, form not being good enough, took a couple of hammerings against Celtic, but I would go into every Old Firm game looking forward to it. And that one was no different. Knew I was going to be playing, knew that the team was in a good place at the time, and knowing that again, if we play the way we can, we can match Celtic and win this game. And it's what, when you play these Old Firm games, you don't want either team to get into their rhythm and their style early. So any sort of marker you can lay down early is important. Obviously, I managed to get one in that game. And, I think the rest of the game sort of took care of itself. Again, I think it's a game we dominated for the majority of the game. Basically all of the game. I don't really know. I think Celtic had one shot on target that day, which is a vast difference to the Old Firm games for the previous season. But I think that's something that I talked about Mark and David Weir's style of play that they brought in and how it completely changed. I think Steven Gerrard and Michael Beale the other way and defensively and how organised that team was compared to the previous team. And you certainly seen that in abundance that day because it was a game we dominated.
You had the role of the unofficial captain. It was something you spoke about a wee bit earlier with regards to Kenny and Lee were at the club. You kind of took on that mantle. See, when a new recruit did arrive, was it your job to kind of inform them about the standards, the traditions and the history of the club?
I wouldn't more say it was my job, it was just what I'd done. I'd done that before any sort of unofficial captain tag was made. I'd done that under Mark Warburton. If there was a new signing, I would always try and make them feel welcome. I would try and explain the club and the tradition and the history as best I can, and always try and let people know, because I think it's important that this club's different to anywhere you've played. I don't care where you've played, it's different. Glasgow's a goldfish bowl, everyone's either Rangers or Celtic. Their full life's football. What you do on the pitch, what you do every single day reflects how they behave and how happy they are going into the rest of the week. And that's just what I try to do. And especially with younger players, I've got a real interest in the young players at Rangers. I was a youth player at Rangers, so I'll try and help them as much as I possibly can, which led to me sort of last year going down with the under-18s at Rangers quite a lot with Davy McCallum and Kevin Thompson and try to be at their training as much as I can in games and try to help them. So it's something that I've always tried and done. There's one captain, but I believe there can be numerous captains within a dressing room.
Now, the season that's just passed, incomplete as it was, we've seen ourselves in a difficult but by no means impossible position to turn around. We were in a very good position at the top of the year. What happened? Was it just a loss of form and injuries taking control of it, and that's what happens in a squad, that you're going to have a drop-off throughout a season at some point?
It's $1 million question, because I thought, again, like you touched on, we were in a great place domestically, European level. We just looked at a very, very good team at this period in time. Our European record last year was remarkable, especially for the qualifying groups. Because it's so difficult going through that first round, going all the way through. It's difficult. You're playing Thursday, Sunday for basically 6 months. And I think Steven Gerrard and his backroom staff made the point that we had to have a bigger squad going into the season. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be rotation. But I still think the majority of the 15, 16 players played every game. So I don't know. I don't know if it was a case of just, tiredness, just loss of form, consistency. But I didn't see any difference in terms of how we trained or how we prepared for games and how the manager and his staff try to operate going into games. So it's $1 million question. I'd love to be able to answer so you can fix it, but it was just a complete loss of form.
What do you think we need to sort of kick us on to that next level? Is it a few more quality players maybe up front, in the middle, at the back, or is it just that magic ingredient that we can't quite put our finger on?
I mean, as a fan, everybody loves a new signing. You could never have heard the guy before. Brilliant, we've signed this guy, he's going to play there, but you don't know what he's like. It's just, we all love new signings. I just think since I've been at the football club, we've just signed too many players, and we've done it every year. And with the sort of foundation of the squad just now, and the sort of first 6 months that we had last year, I don't think we need a lot of players. I just think we need, instead of buying 10 players, I think we need 3-4 top quality players. I think, like you touched on, I think attacking options is certainly one of them, because I think you take away Alfredo's goals, I think there's a big disparity between him and Jermaine, albeit Jermaine doesn't play a lot of games. And when Jermaine plays, you know what you're getting off Jermaine, you're getting goals. But in terms of goals for midfield and goals elsewhere, so I think attacking options is certainly one. But I don't think that the club needs a lot of new signings. I just think 3-4 top quality signings, and with the foundation of the squad we've already got, will be fine.
Do you think there is? Sorry, Stephen. Do you think there is a couple in the youth players that you've seen last year when you were down helping? Do you think? Because I think they're quite highly thought of, this next crop coming up.
Yeah, definitely. If I was still there and my opinion mattered, I'd be a big advocate. I'd try to push a couple of the younger ones that are there just now into the first team squad, and because listen, there's sort of last year there was like 5, 6, 7 first team players that weren't making 18s, they weren't making squads. That could be the younger players, that could be the youth players. I think like we've seen breakthroughs out of the likes of Nathan Patterson, very good prospect, someone that I believe can make that jump to the first team pretty soon. Kai Kennedy, albeit he looks very slight in his size and his build, but very, very technical, very good technical player. Someone again I'd like to see make that step up to the first team. The likes of Stephen Gerrard, who's just went on loan, Glenn Middleton has just went on loan. I think these players need the basis to show that they deserve to be there and be given that chance. And I think Glenn, when you look 2 years ago, was given that chance, and when he played, done really well. So it's about just giving them the chance to develop and be more consistent.
As a player who always had a very close relationship and continues to do so with the supporters, how hard was it for you not to get to say goodbye to the fans? And how do you think playing with no crowd will affect the players next season? Because sometimes it's a help and sometimes we hear it's a hindrance, especially at Ibrox if things aren't going correct. How difficult a place is that to play against when perhaps confidence isn't at its best?
Yeah, it's by far the biggest disappointment because obviously you touched on the fans, but like, I even the teammates and I've been at the club 5 years and I've built up such a relationship with people that work within the club. You know, the kitchen staff, the kitmen, physios, masseuses, you know, the girls that work in the office, player liaisons, you know, people who work at Ibrox in the reception. I was so close to all of them on a personal level as well, and the fact that I never, you know, was able to give my thanks and say my goodbyes to them, it was obviously very difficult. And then the chance that, no, I pulled on the Rangers jersey for the last time, and I never knew. You know, I never knew that going into a game this was going to be the last time. You know, I'd get the chance to say thanks to the fans and obviously goodbye. But on the flip side, it's just me being a supporter again. So I know that I'm going to see everybody again. I'll obviously be at games next year. I'll be in the stands and supporting the players in a different way. So,
how would you look back upon your time at the club?
Probably, I've had a lot more lows than the majority of Rangers players, but I look on it extreme pride. It's like I've said before, that I never dreamed of playing football. I just dreamed of playing for Rangers. Managed to do it 150 times. I can't be sad about that. It's unfortunate that I would love to have stayed at the club to win something and bring a league title back to Rangers. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to do that. But it's just about myself, just supporting the next group that I'll try to do it. So it's if my family and my friends are proud of me, then that means the world to me. And for myself, the fact that I managed to play for Rangers so many times, it was special no matter what.
Kevin, how about you?
Right, my last question for you then is, we spoke a lot about Andy Halliday, the player, here today. Andy Halliday, the fan. What was your favourite games growing up, your favourite players, and what was your favourite strip? Because we talk a lot in Heart and Hand about great classic Rangers strips, especially for the late 90s, early 90s.
I'll start with favourite strip, and it's just because that I used to have, it was either Barry Ferguson or Michael Moles on the back of my strips when I was younger, all the time. Barry Ferguson, Michael Moles, no matter who it was. And it was the NTL strip where it was the light blue, the dark blue, and the white. Mm-hmm. That was my favourite strip growing up because I remember just having that. I remember I dressed up as Michael Moles at Halloween once at my school disco. Had freckles on, spiked my hair up, had that strip on. So that's one of them. Favourite games, there's so many, obviously Old Firms, European nights, but the two that stand out is, well, I'd say three. It would be Dunfermline at Ibrox 6-1, Helicopter Sunday at Easter Road, and then Rugby Park, obviously with the league in 7 minutes. Maybe the Kilmarnock one first because I was old enough to have a drink, so I was drunk at that one. Because I had a few drinks at that one, that might have been the best, but no, they three probably stand out more than any. Easter Road especially was mental, and probably one of the first times I've seen my dad cry, so.
Okay, I promise we'll get you here in this one, and thank you very much for giving up your time to do this. What does the future hold next for Andy Halliday? I've heard you even speak about going into the world of coaching or management. What's prompted you to do that? Because nowadays we see, or going to continue to do that, because nowadays we see so many ex-pros decide to step away from the game, but you're somebody that clearly wants to remain in it, and you've got ambitions, obviously, to manage.
It's always been my plan to do my coaching badges before I finish my career. Such as my love and my passion for football, I just want to always stay in it. And I started my B licence at the start of this year. I've basically done all the on-course assignments. It was just about getting assessed. Unfortunately, during the coronavirus, I've not had that assessment yet. But once that B licence finished, I'll just go straight into my A licence. But in terms of the player, it's such a difficult period for everyone. It's something that nobody could ever predicted or assume it's happening. The 90% of clubs around the world aren't back training yet. 90% don't know their finances going into the next season. So I think for myself, it's going to be a slow process, and it's something that I've prepared for. So it's just about myself, just try to keep as fit as possible and keep mentally ready that when any call comes that I'll be ready for it. But I've just had chats with teams just now, and I think it'll probably be at least another month before clubs are back and know what's happening going into next year.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, and it's been an absolute pleasure. I know every Rangers fan will be looking out for you in the future, and hopefully maybe one day we'll see you in a pair of brown brogues by that dugout. Andy, thank you very much. Absolute pleasure.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Andy.
Thank you.
This is a Heart and Hand production.